Let me just tell you, when you read on someone's website as a headline, I help you go from good to golden sales. You know that this person is someone that you can trust and they are driven by results. And I'm all about that. Jillian Murphy is a highly sought after sales and business mentor who has mastered the art of sales and scaling not only her own business, but has helped hundreds of other online business owners as well. And with over 20 years of business experience in sales and marketing and growing multiple businesses of her own, she has now made it her mission to help online business owners gain real results in sales and messaging. Sales is truly the oxygen of your business, and we're going to talk about that today. So let me welcome Jillian.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm like literally such a fan of you. I feel like from the first day I met you, I was like, can we just be besties? So now I'm like super excited to come on your show and just like totally riff with you.
And it was just awesome because you were sitting right behind me when we met
Mhm.
at Girlfriends in Business.
Yeah,
And when you started talking, there was just something about your story that really drew me in at first because there was so many people there,
yeah.
but your story and your resilience, I was like, this woman can do big things, and I want to be part of that community.
Thank you so much. I'm here for it. I'm so excited to be here today.
So, as the queen of sales, I would love to know what is your back end story? How did you get into this?
Yeah, so I actually tell the story a lot. So I actually was not an entrepreneur. Like I didn't try to be an entrepreneur. It was extremely, extremely accidental. So I was in corporate sales for 23 years. I was a ride or die for corporate. If you could have like tattooed my company's name on my forehead, like I would have done it. Like I was obsessed with corporate America. Like I was going to retire from there, all the things. And I went to a mastermind in California, which was actually ran by Chris and Lori Harder. And I had no idea who they were. I had no idea what entrepreneurship was. I had no idea what coaching was, but I had three girlfriends that were going. And they were like, hey, do you want to like go to this mastermind with me in California? And I was like, sure, like I'll go to California for a week. Literally had no idea. I remember I went up to the front of the room and Chris gave me the mic because you had to like introduce yourself. And he was like, oh, like tell us what you're doing here and like what your intentions are. And I'm like, I don't really have any intentions. Like I'm here to just like hang out with my girlfriends and I don't really know what any of you guys do online. Like I don't really know anything about entrepreneurship. And it was just like this very like thing that didn't make sense to me why I was there. So fast forward the next day, I'm actually at lunch with Nick Harder, who was Chris Harder's younger, I think he's his younger brother. I don't know. I always say younger brother, but I don't know if he is. And Nick is like, what do you do for like a living? Like, what is your actual like job? And I was like, I actually am in corporate America. I help people sell. I help people gain more profitability. I help people literally learn the art of sales. And he said, do you see this mastermind? There's like hundreds of people in here that need your services. And I was like, oh, like, okay. And it literally went in one ear and out the other. And 3 weeks to the day, I lost my corporate job because we went into the pandemic. And I was like, what was that guy's name again that I sat with at lunch? Literally looked him up, found Nick Harder on Instagram, sent him a DM, and I was like, Nick, I did not pay attention to anything in that mastermind, but I lost my corporate job. And I think I need a sales coach. I think I need a business coach. I think I need a mentor. Like, I think I need all the things. Can you help me? And he connected me to someone in that room who was then my mentor for the next 18 months. And she was my ride or die. And we built an incredible business together.
That is such a beautiful story. And
Yeah.
it's interesting how sometimes in a moment when you least expect it, something comes to you that you don't realize the importance of it until later in your life. And yours was so quick. It was within a few weeks. You're like, oh shoot, like that
Yeah.
meant something. That meant something to be there in that room with those people.
Yeah, it was so divine. And it's interesting because so many of those people that were in that room came on to be my clients, came on to be power partners, came on to be like affiliates in my business. Like that mastermind truly was the catalyst for the business that I have today. I mean, it's how I was able to coach inside of Chris Harder's program. It's how I was able to build a relationship. It's how I was able to, know that one day I wanted to be in certain masterminds. Like that one weekend was truly the catalyst for the business that I have today.
And seeing in the short time I have met you, which has only been maybe even just a month and a half or something,
Yeah.
um, just seeing the growth that you've continued doing on yourself is so inspiring. So, can you share with us how you grew to six figures within 2 years. That is incredible. That's not an easy feat. It takes a lot to do that.
Yeah, so I actually hit my first six figures in 6 months in the online space. But I also want to preface it with this. I always share this, right? Like, oh, yes, it was amazing. I hit my first six figures in 6 months. I also was coming into the online space at the point of the pandemic, at the point that everybody was moving online. Nobody knew how to sell. Everybody was like a network marketer or a social seller or a coach or owned a brick and mortar or was a functional medicine doctor or was a realtor. Like everybody needed my services. And I was booked out like insanely. I mean, I went from charging $200 a month to charging $1,800 a month within 3 months because I was like, I literally can't keep up with the demand of what people need and I have to keep raising my prices. So I think that there was two things. Yes, skill set. Yes, mentorship. Yes, all those things. But I also knew who my audience was. And I was the first one to raise my hand and be like, you guys absolutely need my services. And I'm here to help you. And then from there, I continued to grow my business based on what people needed after that. So just because they hired me once to help them grow their business, now how do we scale it? How do we build an ascension models? How do we build out product offers? How do we take what you've built now and build it next? How do we hire a team? How do we do all these things? So then a lot of those initial clients are actually still with me to this day, 2.5, 3 years later, because we're still working together to build like the longevity of their company.
Oh my gosh, you do so much within. I love all those topics. As much as I love fashion, I am totally into business marketing, the connection aspect of it. How do you keep up with learning so much about all the little parts of business that you can share with your clients?
Yeah, so I have always been very much in my zone of genius only, right? So if somebody comes to me, and I'll give you a great example. Right before this call, there was somebody that I met online. I think I actually met her at Girlfriends in Business, maybe. And she said, hey, I've been following you for a while, and I own a brick and mortar hair salon, and I want to grow my sales, and I want to become an accredited investor, and I want to start investing. I raise my hand and I say, not my zone of genius. Like, cannot help you here, right? So I stick to the things that like I know I'm good at. And I'm also not afraid to say, like, this is not my zone of genius, but let me point you in the direction of what it is. So, yes, while I'm always learning new skills, I took the skills that I had for 25 years in corporate, and those are the same things that I'm teaching now. So, like, I teach lead generation, I teach retention, I teach follow up, I teach sales, I teach selling through store. Like I teach all these things because it's the same things that I've been doing and it's things that I can talk about so easily. If somebody was to say to me like, hey, do you want to come on my stage tomorrow and speak on mindset? I'd be like, no, because it's not my zone of genius. I don't want to talk about systems. I don't want to talk about email funnels. Like I just stick to what I know. And I also only invest to learn what I need to know.
That's really important.
Mhm.
And as much as you are a genius in sales, you are also great at community building. And the way that you have this way of sharing in your stories where you feel like you're like when I'm watching, I feel like you're having just a one-way conversation with me. I'm like, yes, Jillian. So
Yeah.
I want you to share what is your secret to building an engaged community?
Yeah. So I actually teach on this. It's actually one of my like master topics that I teach on is how to build an engaged community. So I'm glad that you feel that way because it's actually something that I teach on. And there's just a few things that make a big difference, right? So one of the biggest things is like when I'm on my Instagram stories, you'll never hear me say like, hey, everybody, or like, hey, everyone, like, because I'm not talking to everyone. Like, I'm just talking to you. So when people are watching my stories, they genuinely feel like I'm just talking to them because I'll say things like, hey, like, how are you today? So people are like, wow, like she's actually asking me like how I'm doing, right? So something as simple as that, there's like an instant connection where like one of the biggest things that I see is people on their stories and they're like, hey, like happy Monday. And then it's like, well, I don't really feel connected to her because she's like talking to everybody, right? So that's one of the biggest things. The second thing is that people connect through voice and they connect through eyes. So you'll see, like when I'm on my stories, I'm not like far away, right? I'm also not like walking around. I'm usually like at eye level with you. Because if you're watching your stories here, right, you're holding your phone, we're like literally at eye level. So we're connecting to each other at eye level. So you literally feel like we're sitting across the table from each other, like literally like girlfriends, like besties talking to each other. And that's, I think, another thing. And then the third thing, and this is like so simple, don't wear sunglasses on your stories. Because when you wear sunglasses on your stories, you're actually putting a barrier between you and the other person, and they can't actually connect with you. So those are just three like super like simple things that people are like, wow, I never thought about that. But if you just do those three simple things, your audience will feel so much more connected to you. And then I want to give you one last thing. I am a shit show on my stories. Okay. Like I will get on my stories with wet hair. I will get on my stories with it half curled. I will get on my stories like ugly crying, like all of those things. And that's also where connection is built, right? So if you're always watching somebody's stories and they always look perfect, they always look put together, they always have a filter on and they're like, hi, good morning. You don't feel like you're actually like talking to your girlfriend, right? But when I'm like walking and I'm talking, like you feel like you're on a walk with me. Or if I'm like cleaning my closet and I'm like, you guys, like going through my closet right now, like what is this shit show back here? Like you feel like you're actually part of my life because I'm taking you in my life with me.
You know what? That is really important. I didn't realize, and it's such a simple thing, but there's
So
so many
simple.
tiny, simple things that add up of just sitting in front and having that camera right there at eye level so you feel like you're in front of that person.
Yeah.
I know that and as you were saying that, I'm like checking off everything I'm doing wrong. Let me just tell you. And for me, it's more of, which we actually kind of briefly talked about when we first met, is with my social media. I think the part that makes it difficult for me is I am doing more of the one-on-one and running my team. So I don't have, I I know it sounds weird, but I really don't have a lot of free time. Even in the morning, I would love to be that influencer doing my makeup,
Yeah.
drinking my coffee. I got two little kids to take care of, get them out the door, get myself ready, do a quick workout someday so I can get to work. I'm like, I wish I could sit there and drink my coffee and answer questions. And maybe it's something I put in my schedule to do, but I want to be more intentional.
Yeah. And like the one thing that's like really big, I think people like really overmiss this is like B-roll content. So
Mhm.
what B-roll content is, it's like that's when you're creating content of literally just you, right? So like you and I talked about this even before we hit the podcast. Like you and I are both recording this podcast right now. So like I will maybe either take little clips of this or I'll take a 10-second video and I'll put words over the screen. That's like, hey, 5 ways to grow your podcast, right? Or 5 questions to ask in sales or one mindset shift. Like I think so often we overcomplicate content and really, like Gary Vee said it best, like just document your life every single day, right? So if I'm walking out the door, I have a video of me like walking out the door. If I'm taking my dog for a walk, I'm like taking it. And then I have all this content in my phone that if I could just put words over the screen, it's so much easier than having to sit down and actually create content because I am by far not an influencer by any means, but I do just record video of my life all day long.
And that kind of ties into my next question because with sales, just like anything, just like you're talking about with how to create content right now, this is something that's newer. As content has changed, there's different trends and things going. Right now, it is more simplicity. People are busy again after the pandemic. It's like everyone decided to fill up their schedules when they were all like, oh, I enjoy taking life really slow. So, with sales in general, what is a current trend right now on how to sell? What is the best way to sell right now? Because I know how I was selling 10 years ago is not the way I'm selling my business anymore.
Yeah, so I think one, it's going to be different depending on what your business is, right? So, like, if you are a brick and mortar, you're going to be selling different than like if you're an online person. So, one, I think it's important to really kind of ask yourself, like, what is your business? And this is even why, like, in my business, like one on one is the bread and butter because I don't cookie cutter anybody's business, right? The way that I'm going to help you sell as a stylist is going to be very different than how I help my girl down the street who owns a med spa, which is very different than who I have that's a mindset coach who's selling off of a webinar, right? Like there is no one way to do it. So I think that it's like important to really ask yourself, like, what is your business, right? And then the other thing is really like looking at the data of like, where are your sales coming from? Because every sale that you do has a process that's rinse and repeatable. But I think so often people aren't actually paying attention to like the process and they're not actually paying attention to like what really comes in, right? So if I asked you right now, listening to this podcast, where did your last 5 sales come in from? You should know. oh, hey, I went on a podcast and I got 3 referrals. I did a networking event and I got a referral, or I was on my Instagram stories. Okay, well, then let's take one of those and pour fire on it and do it more, right? So for an example, like I'm crazy on podcasts. You're actually my 4th podcast today. The reason why I do so many podcasts is because that's an incredible funnel for me to bring people into my world. So while it might be a really great funnel for me to sell through podcasting, it may not be the right way for everybody to sell. But I know that my data tells me that when I go on a podcast, people start to follow me, then they come into my stories where I sell unapologetically, and then they move into my world, right? So it's like you have to look at the data and kind of see. And then the other thing is knowing where the market is shifting to is going to be important in your messaging and your content. And this is something that I see people doing wrong all the time. And I don't want to say wrong, I just see like they haven't learned it. So for an example, like I'm just going to use me for an example because it's easy. If I was selling a year ago on my Instagram content of like, hey, how to hit your first 5-figure month, or how to make your first 10K in business, that was the problem and that was the desire that people had a year ago. But that content is not going to land today because my ideal client has a different problem today. My ideal client is trying to sell through a recession. My ideal client is trying to gain clients during a down economy. My ideal client is trying to decide if she should take a job at Target or continue selling her digital product. So you have to adjust your content based on where your ideal client is today, not just where they were. And I see so many coaches that are still repurposing their same content from a year ago. And it's like, that's not their problem anymore, right? Their problem is different because the market shifted. So meet your clients where they're at in the market versus like where they were at a year ago.
You know what? That's really important. And I feel like that's in a lot of life. You get stuck and you're not quite sure why, and you need to figure out, well, what am I doing right now? And what do I need to do differently to
Mhm.
shift it? And let's get into the sales of why sales is the oxygen to your business.
I mean, you don't have a business if it's not generating money, right? You have to be able to have profitability in your business. And I'm actually even one that talks about like profits in your business versus dollars in your business, right? Because you see a lot of coaches online that are like, oh, I made $1 million in the last hour or whatever, whatever, whatever. But like, what is your actual profit margin that you're actually bringing home? So it's like you need to actually have money generating the business to keep the business alive, or it is just a hobby. And, you know, it literally makes me insane that people are spending so much money. I'll like go on a rant for a second here, but like people are spending so much money to learn every other skill under the sun other than sales. But sales is the only thing that's going to like literally keep your business alive, right? So sure, you can go out and you can learn mindset, you can learn storytelling, you can learn networking, you can learn all these things, but you have to be able to learn how to close a sale. You have to learn how to be able to convert somebody. You have to learn how to be able to take a transaction, right? Like, so if you don't have that skill set, I don't care what other things you have in your toolbox, you have to know how to generate sales, whether you are a brick and mortar, you're a gym, you're a hairstylist, you're a social seller, you're a stylist, whatever it is, because that's what's going to keep your business alive more than anything. And most people don't understand sales. And then most people actually don't follow a process of like how to get more clients in and then to actually rinse and repeat it.
Mm-hmm. And with sales, I mean, I don't know if my method is dated, but I think I've been doing it probably 3 years now, but I do discovery calls and it
Yeah,
works so well. We close
good.
probably 85% of those calls. I have somebody that does it for me now because I'm just busy, but the thing is we never feel like we're selling because the people that do come onto the discovery call, it's like they're ready. They just need a little bit of that guidance and feeling like they trust you and that they're going to be supported through the process. So you never really feel like you're selling because they tell you their problem and you're like, okay, these are the 3 things that we're going to do to make sure that we set you up for success.
Yeah. And I love that you said that. I just want to touch on that really quick because you asked
Yeah.
me earlier, like, what is the right way to be selling right now? And this is such a great example, you guys. Like, her and I both run very successful businesses, but we do it very different. I don't do sales calls at all in my business, like zero sales calls, right? And if you want to work with me, we are only going to have a DM conversation because I don't get on sales calls. So like, this is where if somebody came to me and they said, hey, is there one way to do something? I would say, no. What is the business that you're trying to build? Do you want to get on sales calls? Are you good at sales calls? Do sales calls convert for you? Do you want to free up that time? Like, what is it? And if that is something that is working for you, then we want to rinse and repeat that, right? But if you are someone like me who doesn't, even though I'm great at sales, I don't enjoy sales calls. I actually have more of a dominant personality, so I'm actually not great on sales calls. So what you want to do is you want to look at like, one, what is the business and the life that you're trying to marry up, and what works really good for you, right? So like, I have a lot of clients that like we sell off of webinars. I have a lot of clients that sell off of sales calls. I have a lot of clients that only sell off of a text list. I have a lot of clients that only sell through Instagram stories. Like my entire selling, I've run almost a 7-figure business. My entire way of selling is through Instagram stories. Some people have never sold anything on their Instagram stories. So it's like, you got to find what works for you and then just stay focused on it and rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat.
And I will say, you are my third podcast today. Uh,
Yes.
I was having lunch and my husband got us lunch because he's like, you were really busy today. And I'm like, thank you, thank you. And I told him, you know what? I just have it in me. I'm like, I want to sell on Instagram. That is one of my goals. And like you said, you have a rinse and repeat strategy, which I
Yeah.
have. But there's something in me that wants to push past it because I know that there's more that we could offer people. So it's just
Yeah.
trying to get out of what I'm comfortable with, which I know works, and I'm still going to continue doing it. But it's like, I just want to try something different. And
Yeah, absolutely. And shameless plug, I do a free webinar every single week, how to sell on your Instagram stories. So join it. It's every single week. I literally teach you my exact framework for selling on your Instagram stories. It's totally free. If you guys want to learn how to sell it, like we run ads, you'll probably see them, or send me a DM and we'll send you the link to join.
oh my gosh, yes, please. I'm curious, you mentioned a few ways that you work with your clients, but can you specifically share more about, do you do group coaching and one-on-one, or what is do you do it live? Do you have an evergreen course or something? What are you doing?
Yeah, so the majority of my business is live coaching. I don't do anything evergreen. I've never done anything evergreen. And I just want to say, I think that there's nothing wrong with courses. I love courses. I think they're great, but it's just not the way that I energetically love to serve. And I also feel it's not the best way that my clients get results because it's a little more cookie cutter, right? Like, so I don't do anything that's evergreen. To work with me is usually a live component. And I am one, I mean, you'll like this. I refer it to like shoes, right? Like a shoe store. I am like a shoe store. You can come in and you can buy sneakers, you can buy high-end Louis, you can come in and buy heels. Like I want to have a plethora of stuff because if you're listening to this podcast right now and you're like, I need help with sales, and I only had a $10,000 mastermind, you'd be like, oh, that's not for me, right? Or if I was like, oh, I only have one-on-one mentorship, and you're like, oh, I don't like one-on-one mentorship. So I literally have a product suite that you can start working with me from anywhere from $99 all the way up to a multiple 5-figure investment. And the reason why I do that is because I want to meet everybody where they're at. I believe everybody deserves to learn sales. I believe whether you're making $1 in your business or you're making $1 million in your business, I can help you. So I want to have a product along the way that can help you. So even my membership, that's $99 a month. You get live coaching from me. You get live trainings from me. We just did a hypno breathwork session in there today. Everything is live. Nothing is pre-recorded.
And you know the beauty of that, being able to take people on that journey where you see them and you work with them here and you're able to coach them for years or months, and then you
Beautiful.
see where they get to. It's so gratifying. It's so addicting to do.
It
It's
literally is. I have a girl, I actually just had my one-on-one call with her yesterday, and we actually met in a Facebook group. I'm obsessed with Facebook groups. And we met in a Facebook group, and she was selling Mary Kay. And she was burnt out. She was selling lipstick. She was making like $10 a week. Like her
I was
business,
about to say.
she was making like no money. Okay. And we met in a Facebook group, and she joined a free Facebook challenge that I did on like how to grow your sales. And my very first program was $1,200, and she joined it. And during that program, I was like, do you really like selling makeup? Because it doesn't even seem like you really do. And she's like, no, like not really. And I was like, what is like your like zone of genius? She's like, I love like planning. I love strategy. I love systems. I love all these things. And I was like, Do you realize that there's like an entire group of people online like me who are visionaries and creatives who do not have the skill set? So I took her from a network marketer that was making like $1 a day in her business to now she runs an incredible OBM agency making multiple six figures a year. And we've been together about 2 years, and it's like I don't even recognize her anymore. And we just had her call yesterday, and I was just like, I literally want to come through the phone and like hug you because you've grown so much as a person, but like you've also grown so much. So one of the things that does happen when people come with me is sometimes I burn your business down. If it's not lighting you up, if it's not making you money, if it's energetically draining you, like you got to be open to me, like getting my hands in there and being like, this isn't working, but trust the process that we can make it something better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about selling in DMs because you're good at this and selling with stories. How do you do this without coming off as like being a creeper or just looking like a fake profile? Because I get people that try to sell to me all the time. They come on and they look like they're a fake company. And when you look at, yeah, it's just weird. How do you come
Gross.
across and actually do it successfully?
Yeah. So one of the things I will say about this, well, two things. One, I get this question all the time, like, how have you sold multiple seven figures in your stories with like out being creepy? Is I never go into it with the intention to sell.
Mm.
So if you and I meet at Girlfriends in Business and you and I connect in the DMs, I'm never, ever, ever looking at you as a dollar sign. I am never looking at like, how can I take this conversation and like maneuver it into how I can serve her in business? Never. What I do is I get to know you. I get to know your business, get to know what you do, get to know you as a human, a wife, a partner, a mom, all of those things. Then you and I are building an actual relationship and a friendship in the DMs on all sorts of different things. But my content is nurturing you. My content is like when I need help with sales, she's the obvious and only choice for me. When I need a 6 week sales sprint, Jillian's the one that I join. So I don't need to be selling you because my content is selling you, and you and I are actually building the relationships in there. I think the other thing about this is I delegate a lot of stuff in my business, right? I delegate a lot of things out. I will not delegate out my social media. I will not delegate anything out that is my brand voice. So when you're talking to me in the DMs, it's me. When you're commenting on my hard feed, it's me. When you are sending me a message that's like, hey, thank you so much for this, it's me. And that is how relationships are actually built. And I actually learned this from one of my mentors, Lindsay Schwartz. I never want to give away the one thing that builds community and the one thing that builds relationships, because that's the livelihood of my business, right? So those are just the two biggest things. And you have to just relax, right? Like, not everybody is going to be a sale. Not everybody is going to be a connection. Not and I think so often people go into it and they're like, okay, I just met this person. Now, how can I ask them about their business? How can I make this about me? And how can I sell them? And it's like, calm down. Like, just get to know people. You and I may never work together, but you might be my biggest raving advocate out there to be like, hey, anybody that needs sales, you got to go to Jillian Murphy. Or you and I may never work together, but you might be like, hey, anybody that's got a podcast, you got to get this girl, Jillian Murphy, on. So it's like, we're just building an actual connection. And then if and when you ever need my sales and services, you know where to find them because I unapologetically talk about them in my stories.
And that goes with your community building. You're just building community and building
Every
that
day.
trust with people. I do want to also talk a little bit about the mastermind because you do so much in being able to, like we mentioned, grow as a person. What do you feel has been your biggest takeaway working with Chris on the mastermind?
Yeah, so I think the biggest takeaway, so I have been in Chris's world for quite a while. I was in his world when he ran the Fast Foundations Mastermind. I had the opportunity to actually coach inside of one of his programs. I actually was a coach inside of another program that he did. So I feel like I've really gotten to learn quite a bit from him. But I will say the best thing about Chris being in the mastermind is really the people that he curates in the room, right? So I might not have learned every single thing about business this year directly from Chris, right? Like Chris has not been the only vehicle to grow my business, but it's the people that he puts in that room and the people that are in that mastermind that are my biggest drivers for my business, my mindset, my finances, my hard conversations, all of those things. So while yes, Chris is amazing and I will shout him out to the end of time, it's really about the people that he curates together that is like the powerful thing about being in that room.
Mm-hmm. And when
Mhm.
you go to events, because the Girlfriends in Business event, I was able to afford that for a few years to do something like that. And
Um,
I just haven't done it. It's almost like you need permission. It just felt like the right time. And I went into it because I had a connection with Lori. She kind of changed my life a few years ago without knowing it. And I wanted to be in that room. I didn't know what I was going to take away from it. So I'm just wondering, when you go to these kinds of events, do you go in kind of with an open mind of what you're going to take away? Or do you kind of have set like, okay, I'm working on this on my business. These are like the people I want to meet or questions I want to ask. How do you go into these events yourself?
Yeah, so I think it depends on the event in the room, right? So if I'm going into a mastermind, right? So like the elite level mastermind that I'm in with Chris, I'm going in with like a very strategic plan of like how I want my business to look in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and then like who are the people in the room that can actually help me get there, right? So it's much more like intentional. But when I'm going to events, whether it's like a Powerhouse Women or a Girlfriends in Business or a local networking event or anything like that, I'm really going in and being open to whatever the universe brings to me as far as people and conversations. Because for so long, I would go to these events and I would always gravitate to people that were just like me, right? Extroverts, loud, dressed like me, all the things. And what I found is it's usually the beauty in the people that you wouldn't normally connect with. It's usually the beauty in the people that's like, oh, I don't really think that she's my person, right? There was a girl actually at Girlfriends in Business who's a very good friend of mine, and I actually met her in an event like 2 years ago. And we went to this event and we sat down next to each other, and I was like, this girl is like not my jam, right? And we were sitting next to each other at this event all day, and every single breakout room, you have to kind of like sit next to each other and talk. And I was just like, I'm like not feeling this girl's energy at all. And that night we went to dinner and we just happened to be at the same dinner again. And she was next to me. And I was like, what is the universe like trying to tell me? And I will tell you that dinner changed my life. Her and I broke through so many things in my personal life that I needed. We have now gone on to go on vacation together. We've gone to Turks and Caicos. We've gone to the Bahamas. We've gone to Sedona. We've gone to Atlanta. I've supported her book launch. Like she supported my programs. Like she is truly one of my best friends in business, but I never ever would have gravitated to her in a normal atmosphere. So I just think you have to go in and be really open-minded and also know that like there's going to be people in those rooms that trigger you. And it's a really big mirror for what you need to work on, right? Even at Girlfriends in Business, there was people in that room that I like rolled my eyes at. And I went home that night and asked myself, like, why am I rolling my eyes at those people? Why are they triggering me? Why are they activating me? Why are they making me feel this way about myself? And then that's the inner work that you have to do so that you can show up different at the next event.
Ooh, those are good. Yeah, I always like to ask because I'm new in it. And now I'm going to go into the dinner series. And I'm
Oh,
like,
good.
I'm all about just letting the universe kind of tell me and lead me to what's supposed to happen.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I'll be at one of the dinners or two. I'm not sure which one I'll be at, but I'll definitely be at the one here in Arizona. So I'll definitely see you at that one.
Yes, I'm going to all three. I purchased all three, so I don't know where the other
Perfect.
two are, but that one,
Yeah.
yes, I'm going to be at as well. Overcoming fear. So, with my business, and the whole point of the podcast is really trying to get to the other side of personal growth and whatever you're working on. So, I'd love to hear a little bit about what you right now recently are working on to push yourself in your business or personal development that you're trying to get to on the other side.
Yeah, so I just made a pretty big move in my life. I actually knew I needed to make some changes in my business. I needed to get into some new energy, some new environments, and really kind of expand me to the next level in my business. And I knew that where I was at in Michigan, I'm from Detroit, I knew in Michigan I was going to continue to be really good where I was, but I wasn't going to expand more. So I actually made a really big decision to leave everything, literally everything in Michigan, pack up my Land Rover, pack up 3 suitcases, and I actually moved across country by myself. And if we can talk about fear for a second, it's fear of the unknown. It's fear of finances. Obviously, it's much more expensive to live in Scottsdale than it is to live in Detroit. Fear of like not making friends, fear of like not fitting in, fear of like dating yourself. there's just so many things. And this has been one of the biggest like transformations of my life. And I can't wait to see what it looks like in 6 months from now, or a year from now, or even longer than that. But I knew that I had to really lean into what that next step was. And I actually have a merchandise line, and it's called Be Her Now. And it was really sparked from like, what do you want this future version of you to be, right? Like, what do you want your finances to be, or your relationship to be, or your life to be, or your business to be, right? Insert whatever it is. And then it's like, what are you doing every single day to actually embody that next level version of yourself? And I always kind of said like, oh, just like be her now. And it became a thing. I got it tattooed on my arm, like all the things. And then my community really kind of going back to the community, my community really gravitated to this, and they started saying it. They started hashtagging it out. And then we actually created a merchandise line around it. And what I love about it is I'm seeing so many other women like literally wearing the sweatshirt, but also like embodying like who they want to be, which also means they're pushing through that like next sphere in their business or their life.
That was actually my next question because you posted either today or yesterday a picture of your sweatshirt. And
Yeah.
as a stylist, when I see something I like, I'm like, where did they get it? Who is this from? And I look and I'm like, what? This is your merchandise? The
Yeah.
color and everything was awesome. And I'm like, where do I buy it? Your link is not taking me there.
Yeah. Because I have no systems. You got to DM me to get anything in my world.
Share about this movement.
Yeah.
So
So
many people.
yeah, crazy story. Like I used to just always say like, be her now, be her now, be her now. And it like kind of became a thing. And I did a 6 week solo trip out in Arizona about 4 months ago. And when I was here, I was like, I'm going to literally like embody like the future version of myself. So I got it tattooed on my arm, and I took my community along like on this journey with me. And they were like, we love this. We love this. I love this. And then being inside of the elite level mastermind, I like shared a picture of my tattoo in the group chat, and they were like, why don't you create merchandise around this? And again, being in bigger rooms helps you think about things. I never wanted to create a merchandise line. I never wanted to create a sweatshirt. And I was like, okay, like I'll create some sweatshirts, right? So I literally went to Pinterest, found some ideas that I liked. There's actually a girl in our mastermind that owns like a t-shirt company, sweatshirt company, whatever. So she actually designed all three of them, and we ordered them, and I ordered 100 of them. We sold out instantly. Like it was instant. And I was like, okay. And again, I don't have a website. I don't have a Shopify store. I don't have a stand store. Like you literally just have to like DM me and I'll like send them to you. And then we reordered another round of the blue and the black, because those were like our most popular ones.
Yeah.
We just sold out again. And I think we're getting ready to reorder the blue, and then also maybe have some white ones for the holiday. So it just also shows that like when you bring your community along for something, like they're here for it. And like, I'm not making $1 million on the merchandise. I'm actually probably losing my ass because I'm ordering the sweatshirts. They're coming in. I'm packing them myself. I'm mailing them. I'm taking them to the post office. Like there's no system behind this. But there's nothing, literally nothing that I love more than when I see people wearing these sweatshirts. Like I jumped on a networking call yesterday and 3 people had them on, and I was just like, oh my heart. Like I'm obsessed with the fact that like people are part of this. And it's like, I wouldn't even care if they were $1. I just love the fact that people are joining this movement.
Oh, that makes me so happy. That makes me so happy. And for the last question before we wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about personal style. So I talked about how much I loved your sweatshirt and I just thought that you had bought it somewhere, but it's yours. How do you feel like personal style has played a role in your personal growth journey? And where are you at with your personal style now?
Yeah. So I actually love this question because I actually have a very distinct style. I say I have 2 looks. I'm either homeless or I'm hot, and that's about it. And I am very much in my own element, right? Like I wear a baseball hat every single day, big t-shirts, biker shorts, Jordans, like a gold chain. Like I pretty much have like the same outfit on every day. And I am like unapologetic about who I am. And when I came to the online space, I thought I needed to be someone different. I thought like, oh, well, if I dress this way or I act this way or I show up in hats or I look messy, people aren't going to actually like take me as a professional. And it was actually quite the opposite. I gave people permission to like be like 100% who they are. So for me, my personal style is something that's very, very important to me. And I really lean into like what that is. And I actually want to share a really quick story with you. So 99% of the time I have Air Jordans on and I have a hat on 100% of the time. And for some reason, girlfriends in business, I did not dress to my style. I don't know if I just didn't like feel like it. I don't know why. I just like, I didn't dress to it. And from the minute I got there, people are like, this doesn't look like you. Like, what are you wearing? You had this like weird, like red leather dress on. And my dress broke during the day. And I was like, this is such like a divine message. Like, don't try to be something that you're not. I was in this dress. I was super uncomfortable. I think like the only dress like I fucking even own. But it was like, I just stay true to like who I am all the time. And I think it gives people permission, right? So even like today, I spoke inside of a group and I had like a backward Jordan hat on. Like I just stay to who I am because I also think like that's the magnet for people to come into my world. But
Mm.
I will say, I get a lot of stylists that slide into my DMs because again, I look homeless, you guys, 99% of the time on my content, right? I get a lot of stylists that slide into my DMs, and this is what they say. Have you ever thought about upgrading your style? Because if you actually upgrade your style, I think that you would attract higher level clients. And I'm like, well, let me tell you, I'm like close to a 7-figure earner. I'm a high ticket coach to work with, and my clients don't give a shit about what I wear because like I help them grow their businesses. So I think that personal style is something that really needs to just align with who you are and even like the own energy of like who you are because you'll show up so much more confidently like who you are. Like I went to an event yesterday and I was like in my own element, right? Like I had a hat on, I had a blue jean dress on, I had Jordans on, and like it just felt so much more like me. And again, I'll never forget that Girlfriends in Business. I felt so uncomfortable all day because I was just like, what is this dress I have on? It was hot. I don't like dresses. I have these weird shoes on. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it.
I could talk forever about style, but I'm not going to do that on today's podcast. But something to note is that if you don't feel comfortable in something, one, you're not going to wear it. Two, you're going to fidget. And three, it's going to take away from who you are when you're trying to connect with people. All you're going to think about is how uncomfortable you
Yeah.
are in that freaking dress. And I tell clients it's kind of like you can go shopping and try on, like you said, let's use your dress. This dress might have fit your body. The color might
Yeah.
have been like beautiful on you. And you come out and five people tell you from the fitting room that fits you perfectly, fits like a glove. And in
Yeah.
your mind, you're going against your intuition because you're like, oh, really? Because I do not feel good in this, regardless of what it looks like on me. So I love that you bring that up because body type, all these other things that people try to categorize people and put them in a box, it really does not work when it comes to style. It is very personalized in creating what feels best for you. A
And I
lot of
also
people
think
like
this too. Yeah, and I also think this too from a personal style point. Like you are a walking billboard of your brand, right? So like when you go
Mhm.
out, so it's like I also feel from like a social media standpoint, like you should match who you are on social media, right? So
Mhm.
again, going back to even just me for an example, if people only see me one way on social media, hat, Jordans, baseball shirt, gold chains, like all the things, and then they see me as someone different online, it's like, well, who is she actually, right? So I want to be this,
Mhm.
I want to be a walking billboard for my brand. I want to be who I am because also like it speaks volumes for like who you're actually calling into your audience as well.
And I just want to say, as a stylist, when I see you online, I think you look super cool. And I'm like, I
Oh,
wish I could pull that off because my style, even my casual style, isn't like totally casual because I don't feel good in totally casual.
yeah,
I think because I have no boobs. And so I'm like, I feel
yeah.
like I look
And
like
I
a
have
little
big boobs, so I'm
boy.
always like, how do I cover them up?
Yeah, see, your body and things that you feel insecure about also affect your style. So mine is I have no
Absolutely.
boobs. I'm like, I look like a little boy, but I
Yeah,
want to. I do have some cool pieces I try to make cool, but yeah, I
yeah,
love that you shared that. Please tell us about your program, where we can
yeah.
find you. So people want to get that swag or even work with you and ask you questions. Where can they find you?
So honestly, you guys, the best way to reach out to me is just on the Jillian Murphy. Come over, say hello, slide in my DMs. Let's get to know each other. I want to know about you, your family, your kids, your partner, your spouse, like all the things. Let's literally just build a relationship and get to know each other. And if you want any Be Her Now swag, literally send me a DM. We have some blue ones left. We have a couple gray left, and then we have some reorders coming up. And it's going to be a global movement. So I'd love to have you part of it.
Thank you so much, and I can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Same.